this is a real, important, high stakes action. And then I remember I went from I don't care to, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do, because actually my vote is important. And is it against the law if you are from PAP, then you go and vote Workers' Party?
It's not.
And they won't know? Will they know?
They'll know.
But it's tied to your IC, no?
It's not.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Hot Pot, where we hop into different parts of spaces people find themselves in during life transitions. I'm Joey.
I'm Nick.
I'm Q.
And today we have a familiar guest joining us, Joe.
Yay.
What's up? Welcome back.
I'm so happy to be back.
Okay, so you guys might find him really familiar because his podcast, Political Prude, really popped off in 2023 when he did the presidential elections.
Wow, presidential elections was in 2023.
It feels like
Yeah.
It feels like last year.
for me, it feels long ago.
Oh, because a lot of things have been happening in the past few weeks, right? How did you get into politics actually?
Actually, right, I accidentally fell into it. I think the whole story started in 2020 when it was COVID. And I think all of us were stuck at home. And then that's when the last GE happened, you know. I was watching like a lot of the political videos. And there was this one WP video whereby they introduced their team. No one was talking. They just one by one sat down and looked into the camera. And then the video ended. But then that video went viral. And I remember watching that video and going like, why am I excited? Why am I hyped? I was like, okay, I think I'm going to try to dissect this from the perspective of comms, right? And PR, which is what I learned in school. So I went to ADM and NTU, and then I did a second major in WIKIMWI. So I was learning all these theories in school, and I'm like, okay, let me apply everything. So I was just kind of explaining to everybody why I think the video did so well, even though there was zero dialogue, you know? So that went viral. The scary part was that a lot of people from that point onwards said, hey, I think you know a lot about politics. Can you just tell me who to vote for? So the first person said that, and I was like, wait, that's crazy. And I was like laughing it off. But then I had multiple people come forward and say, hey, just tell me who to vote for. And I was like, that's crazy. Literally,
It's like investments, right? Like people asking you to just tell me what to invest in.
It's quite high stakes lah.
Yeah. And I'm like, absolutely not, And at the same time, they were asking a lot of questions where I felt like I also don't know how to answer. And I also want to learn, right? So that's when I was like, hey, you know what? I have kind of like a platform now. So why not use it for good? And it just made sense to launch a podcast. So when the presidential elections came around, I just decided to put Political Prude as a podcast and launch it out there. For me, I think it boils down to how do we get ready for the voting process. So I'm angling it to that. Our theme for the GE is Get Ready with Political Prude.
GRWM.
That's right.
WPP.
That's a segue into the topic.
Okay. So yes, without further ado, the reason why we have Joel on the podcast today, right, is because we are going to be talking about a first-timer's guide to general elections 2025. So we know that a huge chunk of you will be voting for the first time. I remember my first time voting, very blur. Living off pure vibes. Just kidding. But yeah, so we're going to equip you with the skills and knowledge to navigate Singapore's political landscape.
I feel like this is a very full circle moment, because in 2020, I feel like you skipped over quite a bit as well. He didn't just post like a few videos. He posted many videos, and they were explaining why we need to vote, what we are voting for, and how the votes will affect how decisions are made. And I remember going, okay, you know what? Fine, let's just figure it out. Because honestly, I was just going to take the box that my father also take. I was like,
Papa, what you think?
Yeah, like whatever you
tell me.
I take lah,
Then how many times have you all voted?
I'm the same as Joey.
Oh yeah.
2020 first time,
My
right?
first time, 2020.
Oh.
Yeah. But this year,
I'm
I think
the
there's a
most
lot of Gen
experienced
Zs,
voter.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
This year, there will be a lot of Gen Zs.
This is my third time voting.
Election.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like general election.
Yeah.
How can you are not that much older, what?
I think I hit 21 just nice at
Oh, okay, makes sense.
Right.
Makes sense.
Okay, so with that also, right, disclaimer, we are not political experts trying to convince you guys to vote one way or another, but we are merely explaining elections 101 and our own observations from previous elections so you can make an informed decision when you vote.
Yeah, and please don't see me as an expert also. I think the analogy I will use is, you know how like in class you have those kids that will go for tuition and then they will like have all these cheat sheets and notes that they can bring back and you can ask them, you can share with me. Like see me as that person because I don't think I'm an expert also, but because of what I do, I got to speak with a lot of experts, actual professors and academics, and I can kind of like share those notes with y'all today also. Yeah.
Anyway, Joey and I are the students. We are the everyday Singaporeans. Gonna la 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 la. And
Yeah,
listen
also
to
wanna
y'all
be
today.
everyday Singaporean.
No, you cannot.
You just said you're experienced analyst.
Yeah.
He was very excited for this episode, you know. Okay, Joey and I are your
He was
students
grilling
today.
me before the episode.
Yeah, I heard.
I was like, oh my gosh.
I like the political goss.
Okay,
Actually,
okay.
same. I like the tea.
Yeah.
Spill it.
Okay, let's start from the basics. For viewers who are really dipping their toes for the first time in Singapore politics, how is a government formed?
Right. So I think we can see it from the perspective of like who wins the elections, right? So like basically, you know, every election has a number of seats that everybody's competing for. You take those seats, you divide by half. As long as you win at least half or more than half, you're with the ruling party and therefore you become the government. I think that's the easiest way I can explain it.
Oh,
Yeah.
actually politics, so easy.
Then we end the episode now.
Done.
Thank you so much for watching.
Okay, then Joe, can you explain in layman terms very quickly, right? What's the difference between a MP, a NCMP, and a NMP?
Okay, so if you win a seat, you become an MP, a member of parliament,
Yeah.
right? So then you represent the constituents. So those people are people who won, they are elected. The NCMPs are the people who didn't win. So in Singapore's context, it's a bit interesting because the PAP wins usually. So, but with our system, there should always be like 12 seats for the opposition. So if let's say the opposition members don't fill up those 12 seats, let's say for example, they fill up like 9, right? And then there's remaining 3 more seats that need to be filled. Those seats will be given to what they call like the best losers. So whoever performed the best among the opposition will be offered those seats.
Okay, so how do we quantify best loser?
So it's basically the highest percentage of votes that the opposition people who didn't win or they get elected.
Actually, one of my most entertaining and interesting MPs now is Mr. Leong Mun Wai, who is an NCMP.
Yes.
So I think that he has actually contributed quite a lot.
So the good thing about the NCMP role, I guess, is really that even though they didn't win the election, they're still able to get representation and visibility. So then over the course of the 5 years, like people like himself have been able to, you know, become more of like a recognizable name and face because you see them all the time in parliament and in the news.
So it's just like a little thing to keep things fair.
Yeah, just
Okay.
for...
If not, parliament got no conversation.
They all agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Panggang.
Then we got no more memes.
Okay, then what about NMPs?
NMPs are people who are not aligned to any party. They are usually picked out from different sectors. So for example, people who represent like the sports sector, or people who represent like the youth sector, or people who represent the arts, for example. So they are picked out to represent different sectors of society to allow for their communities to be represented in parliament also. So sometimes like, you know, you can see how they will maybe raise certain questions or contribute to parliamentary debates with the interest of their communities in mind also.
Oh, it's appointed by the president.
Correct. Usually there's a nomination process and then they will get sworn in from there. The NMP.
Correct. But then basically each sector will have a sector lead. And this sector lead is usually a respectable figure within the industry. And then when they are calling for nominations, this person will either will screen the nominations first round, and then after that come up with a short list for their sector. That short list they will then submit to Speaker of Parliament. Speaker will then look through again and will go through the committee. Committee will be made up of a few different ministers and MPs, and then they will decide who's in the final list.
Damn.
Each NMP will serve a 2.5-year term.
Yeah. So this is why I don't know if you all remember this, but Xia Xue actually wanted to be an NMP at one point. And she was campaigning to be one. And that's why she didn't have to align herself to a party. She could, you know, then say that she wanted to be part of parliament by being an NMP.
I mean, the essence of an NMP also is that you are supposed to be non-partisan. So you're not supposed to be aligned to one party.
So how are elections carried out actually?
So every 5 years, an election will take place, and Singapore will basically be cut up into different constituencies. Some of them will be GRCs, where you'll be in a group, and then some of them will be SMCs, where it's like solo, single. Yeah. So you'll be voting for either a group of people or a single person. Yeah.
Why do they distinguish it that way actually?
There's this EVRC report that comes out before every election, and a committee is formed to basically decide how these boundaries are drawn. Yeah.
It's like whether you're going to do group project or not. Lah.
Yeah.
Because GRC is
Group project.
5 people, right? Is it 5?
It can be 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Sometimes previously 6 also have. Yeah.
And then within the GRC, each of the MPs will be assigned to a specific sub area within the GRC lah.
Are there any areas that we should look out for?
I think the first place to start is always like we look at the last elections and where were the hotly contested ones. So both coasts, East Coast and West Coast, had very intense battles. I believe the PSP in their debut season did very, very well, even though they lost, but the margin was very close. So I think people will be looking at the West again and seeing where PSP competes this time. I think West Coast GRC is no longer here. I think they changed the name and the boundaries. So we'll see what happens there. And then I think everybody's also looking at East Coast because the WP did very well. Didn't win again, but the margin also was very tight. That team had Nicole Seah as a star candidate, and I think people will be looking towards the east side to see what's going to be happening this time around. Yeah.
So the interesting thing about East Coast also was that leading up to the last election, because it was quite known that WP is going to put like a strong team there, then there was a real kind of like feeling that they might actually win East Coast. Then there was a kind of a surprise late move where then PM designate Heng Swee Keat was put into East Coast. So people were kind of left with a bit of a conundrum lah. Like if you vote WP, then you are possibly voting out your future prime minister. So then it was a bit of a dilemma for people.
Yeah, it's quite exciting because
Very juicy.
Yeah.
it is. It's hot tea.
I wasn't very involved.
Yeah.
So now I'm like excited.
Like my eyes were getting very dry. And suddenly you say, then suddenly that. Then what? Then
Yeah.
what?
Tell us more.
Yeah, no, I think what we can look out for this time around is also like similar strategic moves like this, which is also why you can see already, some people are announcing like their teams and announcing which constituencies they want to compete in. It's just one strategy, the choke first strategy. And then the other strategies are, just wait and see. Wait and see until the very last minute. Yeah. Which is nomination day. Yeah.
And the thing about these sort of last minute moves also is that sometimes it doesn't benefit the opposition because then you end up in a 3-cornered fight. So you might have like PAP, then 2 opposition parties there. Votes might get split because usually people like voters, you will either be pro PAP or opposition, right? So if you are in opposition, then your votes might get split between the 2 or 3 different opposition parties that are competing. So for people who want opposition to be voted in, then these sort of 3-way fights are not very beneficial lah, because it splits up the opposition votes, which is why you will see some opposition parties will form coalitions where 3 or 4 different parties will be like, okay, come, we will share with you our strategy, and then I will go into this GRC, you all don't come in.
Wait, this one is secret conversation or public?
They will have it secretly such that when it comes
privately.
to like actual, when everything is announced, they will have already known what each opposition party is doing lah.
How many opposition parties are there?
A lot.
Oh, a lot.
I think like more than, like 10-ish, 10 plus-ish.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have the WP.
Yeah.
We have the PSP, the SDP, the SPP, the SUP, the NSP, the
RDU.
RP, the RDU. That's 8.
PP.
The
PPP.
PPP. There's also PV. I think that's 10. But there's also alliances that we need to take note of now. There's 2. One is the SDA. The other one is the PAR. Yeah.
Then you got independent candidates.
And then you have the independent candidate.
Like got
Damn.
people just like, I don't need a party, I solo.
Okay, wait, how are these people like?
I'm about to meet one of them. I'm quite excited, like, because we don't really talk about the independents. So I was also interested to learn more about it. Yeah.
But honestly, are the independents usually forgotten?
Yes.
Usually, law. Yeah.
As in,
Because
They won't be seen as
very hard to
as
win.
strong
Yeah.
yeah.
They
I mean,
don't have a team.
when you have like a party support, you can write on brand name, you can have resources to help like campaign, things like that. Yeah.
In your opinion, who are the strongest opposition now?
Right. So, I mean, definitely the WP is very strong because first, they have the most number of seats in parliament. And like Pritam Singh is also now the leader of the opposition. He has an office in parliament. So I would say they're the strongest. The PSP has 2 NCMP seats. So I would say that naturally they're the second most powerful. The SDP also previously had NCMPs and also elected MPs in parliament. So then I would say that based on legacy, they would be I would say, powerful party. And also when you look at GE2020, I think both Dr. Chi and Dr. Paul Tambaya did pretty decently in their respective constituencies. So I would say that, the SDP brand still has influence. SPP is one of the other notable ones because of their history as well. I think, was it the NSP that was the one that launched Nicosia into our...
It's the Nicosia party.
Yeah, at first. Yeah.
As in
So then I would say that,
the joke.
we shouldn't...
NSP.
They are National Solidarity Party, but
it's a Nicosia
because they were
party.
known
Oh
for
my God.
Nicosia, and Nicosia's debut also came at a time where PAP first fielded Tin Pei Ling.
Yes.
So then they was like, oh, these 2 young women
Yeah.
are in this like election, so very interesting.
Oh.
Yeah.
But then NSP's most famous candidate was Nicosia lah. So
Yeah.
then they started calling it the Nicosia Party.
It's giving Queen of the North.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, think you can be NYP. You are Nicholas Yim Party.
Oh.
So you should be what?
NYP.
National Youth Party. Then pretend a bit.
So as a Jurong representative, actually, but I wasn't in Taman Jurong. But our
As
president.
the jewel of Jurong, please ask your question.
Hello.
We have
Yes,
the
yes. I
Jurong.
mean, our president, what used to be
yes.
in Taman Jurong, right? So what do you think will happen for Taman Jurong?
Well, actually, I don't really know because, he was such a strong factor for that, area. So I think we're quite interested to see, even without him there, like, are they able to pull the same support from the people? So I think all eyes will be watching, the Jurong.
The anchor minister for the newly formed Jurong East Bukit Batok GRC will be Grace Fu. So it'll be interesting to see how she performs there and which opposition parties will contest there lah.
Anyway, at the time of recording, a lot of political content is out online. So do you know the timeline of what's gonna happen?
I mean, roughly, I think we have that standard of milestones we can look forward to. So in general, when it comes to an election, the EBRC report is usually the first indicator that an election is coming. So that has passed. The next thing to look out for is the rate of election being announced. And usually with that comes the dissolution of parliament, which is also why you saw a lot of MPs posting very sentimental posts on Instagram, like, oh, this might be the last sitting of this parliament, that kind of thing, in the last parliamentary sitting. So then comes nomination day, where basically if you want to run, you come forward and you put your name in. And nomination day is also usually the first day of campaigning. In Singapore, there are usually 9 days of campaigning, and then there will be 1 day of cooling off day where, you cannot campaign anymore and everybody kind of takes the time to reflect and think about their vote. And the next day will then be polling day.
Yeah.
Whereby everybody makes their vote. And for Singapore this year, I believe it's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And you can actually expect the results to come in at night already. Yeah, the same night. Yeah.
We kind of can guess the timeline or the dates.
Yeah.
But do you know the actual dates?
I mean, nobody knows for sure, but I think a lot of people are already putting out predictions. I just posted one out today as well. First, when you're reading a lot of these analysts or observers or experts, they're all saying May. So you can kind of zoom into the month of May. So we know that at the end of May, there is the Shangri-La dialogue. That's when a lot of ministers are involved. And I think the French president is coming to Singapore as well. So probably...
cannot don't have government, right?
Correct. So cancelled. Lady Gaga is coming to Singapore. So,
Joey, wake up already. Joey, wake up already.
They will deconflict.
there will be 4 massive concerts that Lady Gaga will be, dominating, I think, the conversation. So I don't think they want to clash with that. Personally, like my opinion.
No, because when these sort of like big concerts are happening, right, police get activated also.
Yeah.
But police are also activated for
For
our
G,
elections.
Yeah.
But first week of May got click 5.
I mean,
Bit different scale.
no shade to the Click 5.
I'm all
We're talking about
catching your
Gaga
wave.
here. Yeah.
But
It's mayhem.
Ada kau ba?
Oh my god, this is giving like Swifty level detective work. Like trying to guess a surprise song, trying to guess
Right,
when
right,
Red
right,
TV
right,
is
right,
gonna
right.
drop. Like,
Yeah.
let's suss out the dates. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay.
And then 1st of May is usually like the May Day rally, which also means, if like the elections happen on the first weekend, 2nd of May is not possible because the day before will need to be cooling off day. Yeah. So yeah, I think it narrows it down to a few dates. Yeah.
So if you were to pick one date, you guess you want to put money on it, right?
Oh,
Not,
man.
not,
Place
not
your
that not that
bets.
this is something that you should be
Not
No,
real
it's
money,
just-
not real money.
not real
It's just
money,
fun to spend.
figurative.
Give me my
It's just
money.
fun. Give me my money.
Okay.
And if I was to put my money on one, I would say 3rd.
So by the time this episode is released, the election day would be known. So you'll see whether Joel guessed correctly or not.
Yeah,
But I
and-
also think it's the me.
Yeah, I think the guess is really that I think there's the US tariffs that's really shaking everybody.
Yeah.
All quaking in our boots.
Yeah.
It's very
Terrifying.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good,
Very
that's
good, very good. Yeah. So I think if we look at their playbook,
The
right,
playbook.
the government.
You got watch playbook.
Sorry, we are
Sorry.
plugging our other
You have a
series.
show called Playbook.
Anyway,
Yeah, so when you look at how like they usually think in their decision making during COVID, they actually called the election earlier than later, just because they want to set the government and solve problems fast. So if we look at the US tariff situation in a similar light, I think they'll probably call it earlier than later lah.
So the rationale usually is that give us a strong mandate from the PAP so that we have a stable government and then we can deal with these worldly issues quickly for the benefit of Singaporeans lah. So during COVID, that was the case. Give us a strong mandate so we can see you through this crisis. And the Trump tariffs will probably be the COVID equivalent this election.
are there any other things that they can or cannot do?
Right. So I think a lot of us are probably very privy to the US elections, right? Because I think it's such a popular thing. And in the US, it's very, I guess, trendy to talk about your votes and everything, and then also say that you voted. So I think most probably we will see a lot of mimicking of that people will say that, hey, I voted already today, things like that. Just be mindful that you're not supposed to, post anything while at the voting booth. You can talk about it after, right? So just no live streaming, no taking Instagram stories while voting at the voting booth.
No taking a IG story of your
vote.
Yeah.
Please don't. Yeah.
Are you even allowed to disclose who you voted for in Singapore?
I mean, usually people keep it secret.
right?
I think it's a Singaporean thing that we do not say.
Yeah.
Oh.
So actually it is, I don't think you are not allowed to say who you voted for.
Because you can lie.
Yeah, you can lie.
Yeah.
But I think that there is some stigma from older generations
不可以讲，
time
不可以讲。
where it's like,
Yeah, my father
keep
told me
your-
he cannot tell me. Then after he told me as in he said actually cannot say, but I'll tell you who I voted for.
Wait, I tell you, my mother, right, till now, right, has never told me who she voted. I'm your daughter. Why you cannot tell me?
Is it against the law?
No, it's not.
lah,
It's
it's
not.
not
My
lah,
my mom
yeah.
just doesn't want to influence.
But you can lie. That's the thing. You can lie, right? You can always just say, yeah, whatever. Doesn't really matter.
It's all a game of chess. Huh?
Listen, should I explain? But then I don't know whether I should.
Just
Say
explain
lah,
first,
say
and then
lah.
we see
Yeah.
whether.
So there was this fear during our grandparents' generation that if you vote for the opposition, then if people know that you vote for the opposition, you would be secretly blacklisted.
Oh.
And you would kena target for things like you apply for grants you won't get, you apply for housing you won't get. Of course, this is not true because doesn't make sense lah.
Yeah.
But they say.
And I guess this is a very different culture, right? Because in the US, most people are very proud of who they're voting for.
Yes.
But I think the culture in Singapore is just more so hey, your vote is private. Some people appreciate the sanctity of their privacy. So that it has become kind of this thing whereby I think we've learned to just not ask each other about our votes. Yeah.
Actually, I always ask.
But
Whether people tell me is a different thing.
yeah lah.
He comment, say,
Okay.
say.
But if someone says that they don't want to say, then I'll also not force them to tell me, you know?
Yeah.
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 Question pot.
How come I teleports over here?
Teleports.
It's quiz time, guys.
Wow.
Class test. So today I'm going to be quizzing you on political jargons.
Oh no. Okay.
See the word jargon, I already very I tap out.
The first term, EBRC.
Nick, Electoral Boundary Review Committee.
Can I pass?
What's the
Boundaries. Oh, explain it in one
it's
line.
the committee that reviews the boundaries for the election and
Yeah.
determines what is a GRC, what is a SMC.
NCMP.
Q. Non
Mm-hmm.
constituency
Yes.
member of parliament.
That's right.
Sick
Good
lah.
job. You're supposed to explain the roles in one line.
The best losers. No, I say one. If you watch back to the episode, they say one.
Correct though.
Okay, so basically they were not voted into parliament, but
Yeah.
then they are the
Highest?
highest votes
Share.
shared.
Correct. NMP.
Oh, Joey, nominated member of parliament.
You go, girl.
Okay.
They just nominated members of parliament, literally in the name. If you don't understand it, then you shouldn't be voting.
Hey, the confidence is good, eh?
The next one, the difference between GRC and SMC.
Q.
Go for it.
GRC is group representative constituency.
Yes.
And then
SMC.
single member. And then basically it's one person. Group 1 is usually 4 to 5 people.
Yes.
Sometimes 6.
Sometimes 6.
Good, huh?
Yeah.
4, 5,
They pretend
6,
only. They are one of those people, right? That
7,
Yeah,
6,
closet.
week.
saying don't know anything, but actually
Problem.
has come
Yeah,
out.
very good, very good.
Eh,
Very
我
good.
不是 closet mugger.
Closet mugger.
Okay, next.
Polling day.
Joey! The day you pour lah. You go and vote.
Okay. Cooling off day.
Q.
Joey!
The people in politics should not be voicing out their stands, their voices.
They should not be campaigning.
They should not be campaigning. But all of us, we can woo!
Woo! The next one, manifesto.
I only know manifesting.
I was like, oh.
Basically, it is
Say Nick first.
You got say, you
I
got
say.
say.
Yeah,
You got say.
yes.
It is basically a party's sort of vision or like goal. It's like their vision board.
Is their modular Singapore?
It's their vision board
Ah.
for the election. So it's like, if I am elected, right, these are the main focus areas that I will look at as your representative in parliament.
So they got glue and cut the pictures
The
and
pictures
paste
on
on
It's
the
like
board.
how we do our playbook, the scrapbook.
Okay, okay, interesting.
Got
Okay,
sticker.
cool. Joe is just like, what the hell are you talking
Confused.
about?
Okay.
Correct, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, last one, walkabout.
Walkabout.
Nick, they just walk about and go coffee shop
The
and
hawker center thing.
shake people's hand.
Oh, okay.
And walk about it.
Yeah.
Walkabout it.
Okay, so let's walk about back to the episode.
Question: do people who are running have to vote?
Yeah.
And is it against the law if you are from PAP, then you go and vote Workers' Party?
It's not.
And they won't know? Will they
They
know?
will know- they
but
will
it's
know.
tied to your IC, no?
It's not. So when you give your IC, right, they will give you like a different voting slip that is
Oh.
serial coded.
I think the only
Yeah.
way to track, right, is your thumbprint on the piece of paper.
Yeah, they must
No
dust
one's gonna do that. I'm
But
just
they will
saying.
know that it's your serial number, what? No, meh?
No, I mean,
Or they
it's just
smell.
way too many votes for them to
Oh.
count.
Put in
lah.
Ziploc bag.
This
Yeah.
cologne, regardless of which party you support, I believe you've asked any respectable politician in Singapore whether your vote is secret, they will say yes lah. Yeah, there's no kind of like,
Before we move on to the next topic, the one last tip that I have for everybody is to not wear anything that has symbols on them that represent any party. So I think previously during the presidential election, someone wore like pineapple shirt or whatever, and then they
Oh.
got like sent home.
Pineapple is what?
Taliban
Taman.
symbol.
Yeah.
Oh, then you cannot wear ACDC shirt.
Yeah, no, anything lightning symbol cannot.
Yeah, 'cause got the
Hammer,
lightning
Thor also cannot. You know, palm tree also cannot.
Ah.
It's the one day all my Singapore boys can wear your Uniqlo t-shirt in peace.
Arizam, let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, so I think some people were a bit confused on polling day, like, use the pen, not the chop, or what.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain to the first-time voters what they should do.
Right. So when you go to the booth, and this is just based on experience, y'all can share yours
Yeah.
too. I think for the presidential elections one, it was just this little stamp, and you just have to chow.
Yeah.
So I don't know why there were so many people complaining. Because when I walked out of there, I was like, wait, that was so easy and so efficient. But then when I went online, people were saying that, I don't know how to use the chop. I had to open, don't know what, and then
Yeah,
they broke the
got
chop.
some
the
people,
stamp.
the critical thinking and the practical skills not so good.
He say one.
He say one, not I say one.
Wait,
Chop the thing leh. Come on.
The chop
Like,
is a
It's a
no,
like,
no, as in it's a tick. What was the?
it's a cross.
It's a cross, right?
Yeah.
The cross is to indicate
Who you're voting
yeah,
for.
who you're
right?
Oh,
voting
Yeah.
I remember this now. They were like, should I cross on the one I don't want?
No, I
Or
get it.
cross-
I get it because cross is always like I don't want.
Actually,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cross is a very American thing. You draw the cross as in you mark it.
no,
That's how they
but
mark.
like you fill in any
X.
form, right? Like you go and fill up a consent form now.
I think
You put yes or no, and then if I tell you cross yes or no, you will cross yes, what?
Right.
It's true lah.
I think the
True
slip, the slip also says like
And
Yeah.
the slip got instructions.
you just
lah.
need to read the slip properly.
yeah. But also that's why they gave a stamp because I think a lot of people confused, right? Because I think if you I
Use a
think
pen.
yeah, like so that's why they gave a stamp to make it easier. But then in the end, people also complain.
Can you opt out of voting? Because what happens if you don't?
Right. So before I answer that question, I think it's very important to remind everybody to please go and vote because every vote counts, every vote matters, and I'll explain why later. But what happens if you don't vote? Okay, let's say you really don't vote, or let's say you're overseas, right? And you cannot vote. So your name gets taken out of the list. So the next time there's an election, presidential or general elections, you have to actually apply to have your name put back. So if you don't have a valid reason, you need to pay an admin fee. If I'm not wrong, it's $50 right now. But if you have a valid reason, let's say you're on holiday or for like work, and then you have the tickets that you can show, then they will waive the fee.
It's like gym membership. You must show the itinerary, then they freeze your account.
Yeah.
The other thing also is there are some people who do what we call spoiling their votes, which is they don't want to vote for either party because maybe they don't like the incumbent, but they also don't think that the opposition is worthy of their vote lah. So then they just go in there and they anyhow lah. I chop outside the box, or like I chop in both box, that sort of thing. So your vote will automatically not be counted. So then some people see it as a form of like quiet protest lah, but be
Yeah.
pointless lah.
Yeah.
Do they get their names taken out for doing that as well? Like, do you get penalized
No.
for spoiling your vote?
It's because they take attendance really.
Oh,
Yeah.
because they can't track that it's yours, right?
But let me explain why I feel like everybody should vote. I think there's this sentiment among a lot of people that like I'm just one vote, right? Like, can I really make a difference? There's multiple ways to look at this. I think for me, why I think every vote is important is because at the end of the day, whatever vote that you put ends up as a statistic. And why is that important? So for example, if let's say let's say the PAP wins, right? But if it's a close margin, I think it signals to them that, hey, I don't have as strong as a mandate as I thought I would have, which is what Nick was also alluding to earlier, like a strong mandate, right? At the same time, if the PAP gets a very strong mandate, I think they will have a lot more confidence to put forward some of the outlines in their plans of policies and whatnot. And if let's say they don't do as well as they wanted to, I think there will probably be a bit more of like a process whereby they reflect on these policies and see, how do I make sure that I get more Singaporeans to be on board with my plans and vision. Yeah. At the same time, we have this system internally. I mean, our system is called the first past the post system. So for example, if let's say there are 10,000 people voting in a constituency and you just need like 499,999 and then the other party get 50001, like even though there's just a very small difference in votes, the other party wins. So every vote matters, every vote counts. Yeah.
Your vote might also be the difference between NCMP getting in or another NCMP, another opposition person getting into
Correct.
the NCMP spot. Because it affects it's the best loser, right? So
yeah. So that's why we say that, like, when people say, oh, your vote is, getting your voice heard, like, this is exactly how.
Do you have any tips about polling day?
go and vote at about like lunchtime.
Why?
I think based on my experience, I feel like lunchtime quite good, less crowded,
Right.
quite chill.
I realized a lot of seniors go
Super
8
early.
a.m. like the earliest time slot.
I got alternative option. If you vote early, right, you can like
Go holiday.
go holiday. A lot of people go JB.
That's what a lot of people do. So morning always super crowded because a lot of people want to faster vote, right? Then maximize their
day.
holiday.
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember I slept in. Then I woke up where my PJs go down.
Yeah. Mine was very boring as well. I just go and vote like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing much.
I remember the first time I voted, it was at a school like next to my house. And my dad, I think to me it's like, okay, lor, vote lor. Like I looked at the parties and I was just very like, they're quite tame. Like they're not really trailblazers in the race. So I was like, okay, then whatever I vote, in my opinion, at the time, right, I was really like, it's not going to make a difference. So then my dad was like, okay, take your letter, take your IC. So when there are all these like important things to take note of, it started to legitimize in my head, like, okay, this is a real, important, high stakes action. And as we walked, and like people are saying, please walk here, don't like talk to people, don't know what, like you have to walk a certain way in certain files. And then I started getting very nervous. And then I remember I went from I don't care to, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do, because actually my vote is important.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, at least I watched a bit of Joe's videos to understand like, okay, I think I understand. I got the chair, you can sit down, like how many people can sit down, right? That's how
The chair.
The chair?
seats. Visual person.
In Parliament.
Yeah.
Oh.
In my head, there are a lot of chairs. Then I'm like, how many do I want, red or blue? You know what I mean? That's how I'm seeing it. And I'm like,
Okay.
Red or different country,
This one
bro.
is like America. I know your husband is
little
from
American
America,
hay.
all right?
okay, what color? How many colors I want to see lah? Okay, basically. Actually important. Never mind, I try again next time.
Yeah.
So
I
this is
think-
my
I
next
think-
time.
This year is your year.
I think entering this year, I feel like I'm a lot more like ready to be informed. You know, and I'm ready to like consider the different parties and whatnot. Yeah. Actually, one of the more exciting things this time around, right, is that there will be rallies. You know, we haven't had rallies in 10 years. If you
Wait,
think
like
about it.
parade?
Like,
Like-
no, like they will go to a stadium and then they will like
A bit more
rah,
like
rah,
Ke Tai-
and they will
Ke Tai-
shout.
Ke Tai-
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I think exciting. We should go together.
yeah, I want.
Yeah. Like just go. You know, I should round up everybody.
Yeah,
Or say,
you got
"Hey,
party,
all go
right?
together.
You
Yeah,
hosting some parties
yeah.
also.
So
Yeah.
let's go down to the rallies together. And like, you know, everyone who has gone to a rally has said that the atmosphere is electric.
Electric.
No, I feel
No,
it.
really
Like
quite kick,
concert
man.
is
Got
basically-
Lady Gaga
Like,
vibes or not?
you don't see your quiet neighbor. She's there like, ah! Like the auntie never talked in like 20 years. Then she's shouting at the rally.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
we should go. Just shout.
Hey,
like
I
fun,
want
eh?
We just wanted to shout.
Wait.
like that video.
Wait, what?
No, I sent her there's this super old video where like there was a
What?
opposition rally.
The what?
Then-
Opposition
the-
rally. Okay.
Then someone suddenly like,
Oh, yeah.
then after that everybody was like, okay, so as a political observer, right, what do you think the opposition parties can do this election to garner more votes? Or what do you think their strategy might be in terms of like focus areas? We are seeing some opposition parties talk about like GST, healthcare, education, and stuff like that, whereas other parties are a bit more pragmatic. So what do you think will be the key driver in kind of winning votes?
Right. So I think at the end of the day, right, and I speak for at least my social circle, when it comes to opposition candidates or parties, what we want to see is that they have a plan, you know, a well thought through plan. At least, you know, a well thought through manifesto, for example. If they don't have, you know, like a policy plan, the idea is then that like we in parliament or in government, right? Like a lot of us don't really want to see people who are like shouting or like, you know, making a scene. I think we just want people who are able to really challenge and question policies and whatnot and really play within that system, right? Because if you are voting for an opposition member, you want them to be holding the government accountable and reviewing policies and going to debates and asking intelligent questions and, you know, really like making it like a democratic process lah. I think that's what I've learned from talking to my friends also. I'm like, actually, you know, if you guys are like pro-opposition supporters, like what are you thinking of? And then this is what all they said to me. And I'm like, yeah, that actually makes so much sense, right? Because then it becomes not so much like which party are you voting for? It's just more so like, you know, who are we putting together to give like the best possible government for Singapore? Yeah.
After learning more about politics and, you know, trying to understand, there are people who are born into political parties and they already have like preconceived ideas of what the opposition is, and they actually don't make friends if the parties are not aligned. And that is so wild to me because in Singapore, you know, your taxi, we all know the taxi driver will sit there and like shit on one party nonstop the whole ride. But at the end of the day, they still cash their vouchers now. We have kind of like, we've built it such that there's conversation for everyone.
Do you think that social media will play a big part this election?
My personal opinion is they will play the biggest part. You know,
agreed.
Everyone is on social media. You know how like elections of the past is always like going to the coffee shop, shaking hands, you know, holding rallies. Yeah. And if we think about the past and campaigning, right, it's always happening in like coffee shops or community centers or when they hold rallies. And if you think about the reason why, it's because everybody's congregating at those hot spots. But where are people congregating today? It's all social media, ma. You know, whether it's Facebook for maybe the older generation or TikTok for Gen Z, and then like, you know, the millennials are on Instagram. It's like,
we are on TikTok,
I'm
we are on
TikTok,
TikTok.
so I'm Gen Z lah.
am I wrong? You're on Gen Z what? You're Gen Z and you're on TikTok what?
No, we're all millennials here.
I'm 30.
I'm Gen Alpha lah.
Shut up lah.
Skibbity.
I'm Gen Alpha in my 4th election.
Okay.
Actually, I want to hear the opposition use Gen Alpha slang. Maybe I will.
Oh my god, please don't No, actually, please do. It's great memes.
I find the coffee shop interactions super scary. Like if I was a candidate, right, you cannot control what happens in the coffee shop. And nowadays people are more and more like
Daring.
aggro.
Yeah.
So like they might be like, how you gonna help me? That kind of thing. Then you like, how you gonna help you?
I mean, for me, it's part of the job.
Yeah.
right?
No, but then someone will film that and then it makes it onto social media.
Yeah, but the alternative part is they want to see how you react to those
Yeah,
kind of
true,
situations. If
true.
you have like composure, you know, I'm like, hey, actually, he's not bad, or like, she's not bad.
He's
Yeah.
There's no war in
charismatic.
passing.
No, but I do feel like these days when we see videos of politicians at coffee shops, right? I feel like the millennials and Gen Zs will be like, it's all a show. You know what I mean? As compared to doing something more organic. Yeah, because it's like only during GE then you appear, you go around talking to people, you know what I mean? So I think people can call bluff.
I think if I'm MP, right, I go coffee shop every week.
The silence was deafening.
You might
Okay, like
annoy
explain.
some of the
Let's
residents.
Elaborate.
expand on that.
If not, people will say that I only go to the coffee shop during election.
Okay.
Right. Okay, that's fair.
Then you go alone or you
But
go
they
with your
also
team?
have
I go
work to
alone.
do, ma.
I go alone with... No, I go alone. And then
Your plan is not sounding strong right
then
now.
I will watch my Netflix while eating my bak chor mee.
Oh.
So that I can be a relatable Singaporean.
Okay.
Oh my god, that's what I do as well. So relatable.
Oh
Right?
my god, I also bak chor mee.
Okay, in 5-10 years, right, if he really go into politics, right, clip this video,
See me
stitch this.
wear the partition and I
It's
just
like,
all the other
It's a strategy.
all the other candidates like your people competing with you, right, all shaking hands. Then I just sit at the table and watch my show.
His MP is for mee pok.
Okay, so I think talking about social media, we saw like the last GE, right? The likes of Tan Cheng Bock. Surprisingly, like
hype beast Akong.
He
Yeah.
very cute, very cute.
yeah, so like everybody's sentiment was like that. The older generation saw this guy as like, oh, he's this qualified, credible, ex-PAP caliber kind of politician. And then the younger generation that have not seen him in the PAP before were just like, this uncle very cute, but felt relatable lah. So I think it will be important because actually, you know, at the end of the day, you don't know what voters will base their votes on.
First impression counts, ma. And I just want to drive back to our point, right? Which is that like, I think this time around, a lot of people's first impressions will be social media. You know, if let's say like, for example, you get your flyer or what, right? They probably have their Instagram accounts or Facebook accounts on those flyers. And you want to go and kepo and see, you know, and that will be your first impression, your digital impression, you know? So to answer your question, yeah, I think social media is going to be incredibly important this time around.
Okay, but actually, right, do you think that this whole play to be relatable can be a double-edged sword?
Of course, right? Because we somehow, I think it has become this like criteria to actually have this like maybe, you know, rags to riches story,
Yeah.
or like this kind of humble beginning story that everybody now has. And I think that's probably like the easiest, lowest hanging fruit to be relatable. But obviously it has to be backed up by, you know, substance also lah.
Yeah.
You know, I think we don't want to just vote just because someone else was bullied in school. I don't know what.
Yeah,
you know what I
or
mean?
like, I stay in this HDB.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
everyone
the
stayed
last
in HDB.
GE, right, I was so like surprised that for a lot of candidates introduction, right, was I grew up in a HDB.
Yeah, it's a template lah. It became a template, right?
Yeah, when you go for a job interview or when you meet new friends for the first time, that's not something that I grew up HDB. Yeah, so I thought it was very strange. Like then it felt a bit forced.
Right.
As in, I guess the concern was like, hey, they don't want to come across as like too elite.
Yeah, but then you know what effect that had or not? It made me automatically think that all the other people in the party, right, who never say they grew up in HDB, right, are elitists. Oh, means this one stay condo one. This one grew up in landed.
Yeah, but I do think that at some level, having this like relatable persona online will help because it will allow people to be more willing to listen to your point of view. So for example, I think someone who has really benefited from maybe like the podcast era is Dr. Chee Soon-Juan, because when he went on to some of the local podcasts and was adopting this very like this conversational tone.
And he's very matter of fact lah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people were then willing to go like, hey, actually he's not this like person that I thought he was, based on maybe how he was portrayed previously. And the idea here is that like, yes, you shouldn't just only aim to be relatable through like surface level things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, if you speak to people at a relatable level, people might be more willing to listen to what you have to say. So it's kind of like a balance or so. Yeah.
So what are some of your predictions for this election?
Wow.
I mean, it's very hard to tell.
Yeah.
But I think the PSP and the SDP stand a good chance, this time around. Especially when they had the last 5 years to build on the momentum. For the PSP, we see Leong Man Wai and Hazel Phua really utilizing the NCMP roles that they have to become, more household names. And of course, I think the influence that, Mr. Tan Cheng Bock has still cannot be, like minimized. And then when we look at the SDP, as I said, like Dr. Chee Soon-Juan had a lot of groundwork that he did on social media in the last 5 years. And Dr. Paul Tapaya also has been building a lot of like, momentum online as well. So I think there will be people to watch. But when we talk about predictions, can I just plug one of the episodes that's coming out on Political Prude? This one's really fun because I feel like not all of us, want to go through like everything that's very heavy and academic. I invited a tarot card reader.
Oh my god, that's so fun!
To talk about Miss Tarot on the Moon, Elaine.
Oh my god,
I love her!
So she's going to predict for you who's going to win.
No, so how I angled that episode is that rather than tell me who wins, let's talk about each party and tell me what are some of the things they need to look out for in these elections.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
She's so intuitive.
I love talking to her.
Yeah.
And I think that you guys will, enjoy the episode if you're into that.
Okay. I'll be watching that.
I do have one prediction, but it's not whether or not who wins or not. I think that maybe Mr. Pritam Singh might leave alternate GRC to go to contest in another GRC.
I also think so.
And that's kind of like a repeat of history whereby Mr. Loh Tia Kiang left Hougang SMC to compete in alternate GRC and won that GRC. Maybe, we can see history repeat itself. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I also think so. Because I do feel that East Coast is up for grabs. I might be wrong lah. Maybe last 5 years changed a lot there because I don't live there. But I think that would be a high risk and highly entertaining move for me as someone that doesn't have skin in the game in East Coast. Yeah.
Oh my god.
But I agree. I also feel like a strong opposition player will move out of their GRC to try to claim another GRC or SMC.
How come can just move around? I don't understand.
Mr. Pritam Singh is currently in alternate GRC,
yes,
right? So the expectation is that he's going to compete there again.
Yeah.
Usually, because you've built relationships with your constituents and residents. But the idea is that he's such a strong name now.
Yeah.
That if he decides to compete in another GRC, there's probably a chance that he could help win that GRC for the WP.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Especially if it is a GRC that historically seems to be leaning a bit towards the opposition already.
Correct.
Okay, understand. As in, so WP has like different territories across Singapore, right?
They will compete in different ones.
They
Yeah.
they are relatively strong in different territories. They might still be losing,
Yeah.
but stronger.
But this
Correct.
move might make them.
Yeah. So for
Yeah,
example, like
understand,
if
okay.
there is a GRC that last election, right, it was super close, like 48%, 52%. Then
Then they move their strongest player.
Pritam Singh might be the additional
checkmate,
3% lah.
huh?
Correct. Yeah.
They are taking a risk in that the GRC that you left, Aljuni in this case,
will continue to vote.
will
or
continue
not,
to
right?
vote without Pritam Singh.
Yeah.
And if he lose in East Coast, then he is not in parliament, you know.
Okay, it's Game of
Yeah.
Thrones.
Yeah.
It's Game of Thrones.
That's right.
Okay, and with that, just a reminder that we are only just young adults like you are. And I encourage you guys, for especially the younger ones, to read up on the news, really get educated. It really isn't something that will not affect our lives. And I think that it is important that we do research and just find out more. You're going to do it anyway, so just do it properly.
I think ultimately, everybody just wants to make an informed vote. It's better to make an informed one than a uninformed one. So yeah.
So thank you for joining us on this episode of The Hot Pot. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Me Listen.
And subscribe to You Got Watch if you haven't already.
And thank you so much to Joel for joining us today again.
Thanks for having me. And if you guys want to find out more information about what we do, you can go on to Instagram at @politicalprude. Also listen to the podcast on Spotify.
After you finish one, you queue.
You
swipe,
queue?
Correct.
swipe right to queue.
Swipe right on Q
don't know.
always.
Yes.
But you can swipe right to Q.
That's right.
Wow, this is very confusing, but okay.
And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye!
Joe, you know it's cooling off day or not?
Yeah, cannot do any vote for me.
Correct.
No sounds.
All
no
the Paul
sounds.
Science students are shaking right now.
Vote for me. And not say